Today, we're going to look at why you feel guilty after a night of emotional eating and exactly what to eat and what to do to solve this issue and be in the best shape of your life and drop excess body fat like baggage. This is going to be so clear and direct, and I promise you, this is something that you have never heard before. Why? Because I've been studying this for about 3 decades, and no one discusses this. They say, this is what to eat, and don't eat ultra-processed foods because they cause so much stress, and eat whole foods and have more protein. So many people understand this and still emotionally eat. Why are you emotionally eating? Get your notepad out and get excited. Strap on your seatbelts. Get in a quiet, secluded place where you can focus and concentrate. And if you don't have a notepad and you're not ready to focus, then just pause this and watch it later. And if you're never going to be ready, then it's okay. Entertain yourself in another way. You may not be ready yet. If you are ready, tune in because this is going to get amazing. Okay, so we have 4 superpowers, and I'm just going to talk. Well, I'll probably mention all of them today, but we're going to focus on number 2. Number 1, just so I don't leave you hanging, is appreciation, right? Okay, and we're gonna talk about that today. Appreciation. Why do I say these are your 4 superpowers? Because they make not some things happen, but everything happens because of these 4 superpowers. Everything that you do happens because of these 4 superpowers. When I say because, that means these are the cause of your actions and the effects in your life. Like the reason why you are overweight is because of these 4 superpowers. The cause of you being overweight, sick, tired, lethargic, upset, angry is always because of these 4 superpowers. They are the cause. Number 1 is appreciation. And you're like, well, how could appreciation cause anger? Because appreciation has a polar contrast, right? A polar contrast. That means like, right? We have the green over here. That means good to go, right? And then we got the red here. That means stop, okay? If you are familiar, I don't know if other countries have different colors, but we're in the United States. So when we see a green stoplight, we know that we can go. Appreciation, thank you. Oh, this is great. It's my lucky day, people say, right? I like to say I'm so fortunate. Green light, awesome. Red light, it's the same thing. What are you talking about? It's the same thing. Red light and green light, they're so different. They are not opposites. They are the same thing, the same exact thing. Why do I say that? Because they're both what? Color, of course. They're both color. But when, or although, not but, they're both color. And when it comes to notifying us and giving us a symbol to stop or go, these are contrasting polarities, right? They have a polar, not opposite, but they're the contrast, right? Stop, go, it's contrasting. They're both the same thing, meaning they are forms of movement. Either you stop, which is a way to move, you're stopping, or you're going, which is another way to move. So I hope this is easy enough to understand. I know it is, right? Green, appreciation. Thank you. Thank you for being here. This is so wonderful. Thank you, God, for another glorious day. Red, stop. Right? What is the polar contrast to appreciation? Let's keep it simple. Depreciate. Right? Depreciation. We could even that. Depreciation. Let's make that perfect right now. Let's make that perfect. All right. Ooh, that looks like depressed. Depreciate. Okay. I'll get better at my handwriting for y'all. All right. Make it all perfect. So appreciation and depreciation. If you notice in this word, if your house appreciates, what does that mean? Increases in value. If your house depreciates, it goes down in value. Okay, so what does this have to do, Keith, with me being healthy and eating and emotionally eating? Because you have used your, and here's the second superpower, you have used your imagination. Well, that's a bit neater, huh? Already improving the handwriting. You have used your imagination to appreciate. You said, this is good. I'm thankful. So I appreciate it. Or you use your imagination to get depressed, right? Lower yourself down and say, this is no good. I don't like this. And you are focusing, right? Focus. We'll get into that later, but that's worth writing down. You are focusing on what you do not want, because no one wants something that we are not thankful for. If it's depreciating, we're decreasing the value, meaning we do not want it. Okay? Follow me now. When you are eating something, let's go with the ultimate, which just about every diet has you remove, and that's why most diets are actually helpful. Not because of the diet in general. It's number one, that you are imagining you're doing something better for yourself. You're appreciating your effort. And number two, you're removing this ultra refined food that for sure has been shown study after study to not necessarily improve our life. Yet, big yet to that, some people, as you know, are able to eat whatever they want and still stay thin. We're going to get into that, okay? Buckle on your seatbelts. Get excited, because this is going to provide some enlightening answers. As long as you take notes, write it down, make it happen. Why? Because what's written is retained, and you could put them in the comments so I could know what you're getting out of what I'm giving. Imagination is like image nation. I make I nation. Ooh, yes. I make I nation. We all have a different nation. We all have a different world, because observation depends on perception. If someone is a mushroom forager, top on my mind, because my child, he's 7 and he actually got a mushroom book, studied it himself, and even found by himself without me. And I've known about this mushroom, chicken of the woods, for years, and I've eaten it a decade or almost 2 decades ago and thought it was so delicious, and still didn't take the initiative of having the imagination, making my nation, making my life, to be able to experience harvesting that mushroom. My boy Jai reads this book and says from a distance, he's like, oh, I think that's chicken of the woods. I'm like, you're a genius. I don't doubt him, because I've doubted him before, and he's shown me that he knows his stuff. Doubt is a devilish mistake. Okay, so I have confidence now, a polar contrast to doubt, in my son, which I always do. I'm just slipping. We all slip. It's okay. Give yourself grace. Another word for appreciation. Give thanks that you are learning, because every obstacle is an opportunity to overcome, to get stronger, to get smarter, to get better, to be better. So he made his nation, made his life so that he could see that mushroom, help him forage it and cook it. We experience it. Would that happen if he didn't have the perception of reading that book, having that knowledge, that imagination to image into reality what he would like to experience. Most people don't even know what chicken of the woods is, let alone how to identify it or cook it or want to do that because they don't appreciate mushrooms. Like, no. They made in their imagination, and you may be this person. I don't like mushrooms. I would never eat that. They're slimy, they're gross. Okay? I hope you're getting what I'm giving, because this is getting close to why you make every decision, every time, everywhere, and every one of you. This is why you choose certain foods, because you're making your nation with imagination. You image it to be good or bad. Same exact thing, right? They're just polar contrasts. What's the polar contrast of imagination? What is the polar contrast of imagination? Well, it's simply to give your powers away and let someone else, let's say default, right? Because you're living by default. Someone else is programming your reality. Someone else is guiding you into what is good or bad. That's when we just always follow the rules. That's a lot of times what happens when we're in school. We're just there to answer questions instead of ask questions. And I see some schools changing. It's really dependent on the teacher and the person. Open minds and to let kids be more creative and use their imagination instead of just programming them with what is instead of what can be. So we could either live our life by design, imagination is designing, or default. Now, this is so important because a lot of times we're by default, because how do we get programmed? By programming, right? What do we call TV? A TV program. And when we become consumers, we watch commercials, and there's one commercial that I'll give as an example. It's been running, this campaign has been running for over 5 decades. That's 50 years with the same catchline, the same few words. I think it's 5 words. Betcha can't eat just one. You know what I'm talking about, right? Lay's potato chips. One of my students said, who's making amazing progress, by the way, she said, changed everything, went from taking aspirin daily to no aspirin whatsoever. That's really big. Changed her life. She said, one time she said, I was, getting depressed, and now I feel alive again. Ooh, that's so much bigger than just I lost 50 pounds, to gain it back again. No, this is not a temporary fix. This is a permanent change in reality. If you're interested in changing your reality permanently and need more than what I'm giving here and need that personal touch, then contact me. You can go to Dr. Keith J. Lopez, J the letter, not the name, drkeithjlopez.com. Check it out. I'm running an event, so if you catch this in time, you could go to ogfit.com and you could sign up for the event where we'll get a more intimate view. You'll be able to ask questions. So, bet you can't eat just one over 5 decades. They are programming us. So by default, instead of designing our life, we're like, ooh, let me eat those potato chips. And then once it's programmed into your subconscious mind, game over, right? Because you're not going to use your imagination so much. Your conscious mind is subjective, so it could take and decipher subjects and use your 5 senses. Your subconscious mind is objective, so it doesn't use 5 senses. It believes what it's told. That's why I call your subconscious mind, and other people have called this too, your auto mind. Your auto mind accepts anything you tell it, whether it's true or not. You could, if you say, potato chips are so good, ice cream is so good, pie is so good, like salami and pepperoni, this is to die for, I need it in my life. If you program that in your mind with enough, emotional conviction, like you get emotional about it because it's a thought that becomes an emotionally charged thought that becomes an emotionally convicted belief. And once it's a belief, because you focused frequently on it, and once you focus frequently on one of these two, then it's going to become a reality, right? I could say, oh, I don't want to eat a processed food that's like fractionated and it doesn't have my full amount of nutrition in it. I'm going to actually have the potato instead of the potato chip. I'm going to bake it and, use just a teeny bit of like coconut oil instead of soaking it and boiling it in oil that is a lower grade oil. Right? That's more of a tactic and strategy, though. I'm not going to get into the tactics and strategies. I'm getting into the principle of why we're doing it. The principle is the laws that govern the things. The things are the tactics and the strategies. So when we live by default, we're living by other people's programming or other companies, which is a group of people or one person that made a big company. I would like to live by design and decipher in my conscious mind, is this, and this is key right here, so write this down, is this belief, thought, idea, action getting me closer to my goal? Again, is this belief, thought, idea, action getting me closer to my goal? Because whatever I focus on frequently becomes my frequency, and my frequency is which one? Appreciation or depreciation? These are frequencies. Emotionally charged thought and emotional conviction that becomes a belief and becomes my identity. That's how we create our identity, by having emotionally charged thoughts and conviction. And that happens by focusing frequently on one side of the scale. So you said there's 4, Keith. What's all the 4? I want to know what they are, because how do I control my life? Great question. How do you control your life? How do you control your identity and who you are and who you think you are? The greatest way to really get grasp of who you are is to know who you are. Did I just say the same thing? Yeah. Because we think, oh, I am Keith. I'm Dr. Keith. I'm a human. I'm in Florida. I'm a doctor of nutrition and natural health. I have a master. Those are all qualities that I've accumulated, but the ultimate of who I am is really whose I am, which is I'm a child of God. I have God dancing in my heart. I am here to create because God created me to create. So those are things I've created, but who I am a creation from God, right? So that's my path, is to do things that are in line with the ultimate being, right? The most high, the highest level of frequency, of appreciation, of gratitude, of love, of life, of loving life every moment and having consistent or constant goals that I'm not really so attached to getting the goal, where I put my effort is in the effort, not in the outcome, right? The outcome could always change. The true power of manifestation and creating and living is really in loving our emotional state right now, which is knowing that we're in the game, right? Like a professional basketball player like Jordan, yes, getting all the championships is great, yet playing the game is even greater. If he didn't focus on playing the game, he would never get to the championships. And not just playing the game, but playing the game on the highest level that he could ever play. That will get everyone the championship rings. Just play the game at the highest level possible. Focus on the green, on the go, instead of focusing on the red, on the stop, on the default, on the depression, on the things that you don't want. Focus on how you would like to live, not on what you don't want. And thou shalt not want. Notice how I said what you would like, not what you want, because what you want, then you're creating space and distance. Want is another word for lack. If you look at the Torah and the Bible, or different translations of the Bible, when we look at Psalm 23, thou shalt not want, for the Lord is my shepherd. I am not in lack, for the Lord is my shepherd. God gives me everything. And the main thing God gives us is the faculty of the mind to control our emotion so we can be in control of our expression. Because if I am focused on the default or the lack or the dissatisfaction, then I'm gonna be depressed. I'm gonna be dissatisfied. I'm gonna be in doubt, and then my action is not gonna be superior. I'm not gonna wake up like full of energy. I'm gonna be eating my emotions. Here we go. I'm gonna be eating my emotions because my emotions are that of lack, of doubt, of discouragement. All right. Look at the polar contrast to discouragement. Encouragement, to be courageous. Look at the polar contrast to doubt, conviction, emotional conviction. How do we create emotion? By thought. Thought alone creates emotion. What you focus on frequently creates your frequency, and your frequency is your emotional state. Your emotional state is literally why you have all your goals. Your goals are to grow, not to get. It's not to get something, it's to be someone. Ooh, that's a gem right there. Your goals are not to get something, it's to be someone. To be someone that's a role model to your children, that other people look at and smile, that you attract people that you would like to be around. Because life is about relationships, not things. Okay, so number 3 is intention. Intention. I'm intentional, right? If I am living by default, I'm living by someone else's goals, and I don't have imagination. If I have imagination and live by design, then I am intentional about everything I do. Remember what I said, is this thought, idea, action getting me closer to my goal? Intentions are about having goals. We could be intentional with our thought, we could be intentional with our words, and we could be intentional with our actions. Thought is the cause of your words. Words are the charged emotional state that gets you to take action. Like, that's the reason why we're like, oh, I'm so tired, and we don't just we complain about it, which is living in dissatisfaction. How do we get to the opposite? We have a goal, we're intentional. And the opposite of the polar contrast, because they're the same thing, they're the same exact thing. All right? This is in your mind. Your mind can either be controlled by someone else or controlled by you. This is in your actions, in your words, in your thought. They could be controlled by you, or they can be controlled by someone else. Detention. If you're not intentional, you're in detention. You're literally stuck like Chuck in a pickup truck in a box contained. Like in school, you don't want to be there. You want to be out playing, you want to be at recess, but you're in detention. Instead, be intentional. Not only how you think, not only how you speak, not only how you act, but the three different levels also of who you are speaking to, thinking about, or thinking to, and acting on a level of where someone else is affected, right? Number one is internally, right? I'm thinking to myself, no one else could hear my thoughts, obviously. I'm speaking to myself, self-talk, the stories that I tell myself about my life and my situations and my social life and the sounds I hear. I always have a story. Oh, that's a gunshot. Or that is, what else sounds like it? That's a firework, right? Get super scared, or celebration. Or, I hear hear Mother Nature. I'm like, ooh, that's so beautiful. I can go to sleep by it. Or, oh, that's so disruptive, right? They're the same thing, but we're taking it in a different way. So that is a way of being intentional, the way you talk and perceive to yourself. Another way is the way you talk and perceive God. When we have a view of God that is despising, we're normally in an emotional state of shame, right? We're at a level of shame, and because God is despising. And then how is life? Life is horrible. Life is hard. When we see God as great and blessing us for everything, we're in a state of appreciation, of enlightenment. And how do we view life? As great and a blessing, not a burden. And then how do we behave? If life is a blessing, not a burden, we behave accordingly. We do the work, we eat good foods, we're not eating emotionally, we're not being sedentary, watching TV, living by default. We're living by design. We may be on the TV, okay? And now it's pretty easy to be on TV, right? So the third way is other people, right? We act in a way to other people that gets us in detention, right? Because we're not thinking about other people constantly and helping them and being of service to others in a way that pleases the Lord. One of the biggest reasons why we're here, if not the biggest reason, is to serve other people, which really the highest level of service is love. To love everyone, to love your neighbor like you love yourself, to love yourself like you love your neighbor. Because we must love ourselves, our cup must overflow so we can give to others. So when we're intentional, we won't be in detention. We have three ways of really being intentional, which is thoughts, words, actions. And we have three levels to ourselves, to God, and to others. Number 4, and we're going to end it at here, because I know this is a lot to take in, and I provided a lot of value for you, is the 4th level is expectation, okay? Expectation. What are you expecting out of life, right? And expectation is, there's 2 ways of doing it. We could have faith in fear. Some people say faith over fear. Where I live, we have a lot of signs that say faith over fear. But you could have faith in fear, or you could have faith in greatness. Your expectation could go 2 different ways, right? It could be in fear or fortune. Okay? Which one are you choosing to have an expectation of? Are you fearing this day? Or are you like, oh man, this is going to be a horrible day. It's another day. Work's going to be horrible. These people are going to be so mean to me. Or are you looking at every obstacle as an opportunity to overcome and realizing there's fortune and blessing in everything, in every direction? I expect myself to eat great foods. And here's a big one to wrap it up with is, how are you expecting a food to taste? And kind of more importantly, how are you expecting a food to respond in your body? If you're expecting cheesecake and chips and ultra refined food to give you this feeling of euphoria and bliss and happiness, then wake up, please, now. That's the point of all of this. You're using your imagination to live a life that is not getting you close to your goals, or worse yet, you are not being intentional at all and you don't have any goals. Because if you really had a goal and you are going towards it, whether it's to have a better job, to be a better parent, to be a better person, you're always going to be eating food that increases your level of awareness, of happiness, of health, of ability and agility, so that you could serve others at a higher level. And the first person to serve is you, right? The first person to serve is you. Or you could say the first person to serve is God. Yet God is omnipresent, so stop pointing up and point inside of you, because God is inside of you. Let the God inside of you shine brightly. Don't feed the God inside of you anything less than greatness. And the first cause is not the food. As Christ said, it defiles a man more what comes out of his mouth than what comes in his mouth, because our thought is the cause of all action. Say it again. Our thought is the cause of all action. And when we have emotionally charged thought, what does it become? It becomes a word. And then the word leads to an action. And action leads to a behavior, meaning we're doing it repetitively, consistently. And that becomes a habit. Habit becomes character. Character becomes our identity. And this, my friends, is how to change the game of life completely. Remember, treat it like it's a game, because if you have so much attachment to the outcome, you're misdirected, my friend. Put energy into the effort instead of the result. Put energy into the effort instead of the effect. Because if you're trying to change the effect, it's like watching TV and going to the TV and trying to change the channel by like touching the screen and wiping the screen with a cloth. Might work if you have a touch screen, but I'm not talking about touch screen. I'm talking about you got to hit the controller. The controller is in your mind, your thoughts. Remember, your emotionally convicted thoughts, your emotionally convicted thoughts create your identity, and your identity is who you believe that you are by the images that you're creating in your mind, your imagination, or I make I nation. And you, my friend, can change it all today. You can eat food that serves you, that loves you as much as you love it. Again, if you need any help with all of this, please check me out, Dr. Keith J. Lopez. I'm here to serve you. I love you. I love what I do. I've been in the field transforming lives for just about 30 years now, over 27 years, 3 decades. I love you. You're amazing. And have a phenomenal day. Expect for this day to be the greatest day of your life. Blessed love and gratitude.